I am Nicky P, here as always. My guest today is, we're going to go with Joseph Battaglia.
Close.
Battaglia?
G. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, those Italians, they like to stuff that stuff in there, don't they?
It's better than Battaglia or Battaglia, though, so it's all good.
Well, why don't you start us out? Tell us a little bit about who you are, where you come from.
Who I am, where I come from. Well, Italian, a big surprise. I'm from New Jersey. So I've worked IT for 10 plus years. I was in the Marine Corps right after high school. So I served in the Marine Corps for 8 years doing IT. And now I'm living in West Virginia. I got out right at the end of 2018 and then still continue to work IT. That's kind of my whole life, working in the government and working IT.
So you're working the most bureaucratic part of the most bureaucratic part of bureaucracy. That's got to be its own sort of treat. Is it something you enjoy, or just something that like it's a normalcy that you're comfortable with?
Absolutely not. Nope. I've become very comfortable with it, and it pays, and it's a job, right? So it's just like, that's how I make money. And what I do for fun, I write. I found right after getting in the Marine Corps, it's like, oh man, I got way more time than I used to. And it's just like, I always got stories going on in my head, but now it's just like, I started to put it to paper. And, when I put things to paper, it doesn't make sense. But thank God I have my wife that fixes that. So, but yeah, it's just been my hobby that I'm trying to share with other people.
Is it like a team effort, like creating the books, or is it, 90% you, 10% her?
My most recent book, it was 90-10. My last book, which I put her as the co-author, because it really was like 50-50. And when I I jokingly saying like, oh, she made it make sense. I'm telling you, if anyone saw the original script, it's one of those things where I'm like 99% sure I'm dyslexic in some level. It's just, I just don't bother testing, because what does that do? So yeah, the words don't make sense. She has to make sense. And then I go over with her every single plot detail and everything and how the story goes. And she's there as, the best person can have to tell me like, hey, that's really stupid. That doesn't sound good, I call her my lore master, because she remembers everything. I have a goldfish memory. And so she like helps me make sure that my scenes don't break canon too. And that starts fights sometimes, because sometimes I'm like, no, I want it in there. And it depends who's going to win on the argument of whether it's going to go in the book or not.
Yeah, but you'd rather have that fight with your wife than some other person who doesn't have, I guess, a stake in it in the same way that you guys would.
Never turns it into anything brutal or anything, right?
I mean, her vested interest is not to have an idiot for a husband, so.
Oh, well, she failed at that, so.
Or what I really mean is to not have you look like an idiot to the outside world.
There we go. Yeah, she's making sure I stay under. She's really upset I'm on the internet with YouTube now.
So you're in the Marine Corps, you and IT, and you and I have talked before this. Comedy is definitely a through line through what you do. Full disclosure, I was watching yesterday, I think, the first book trailer for the book that you put out, or the one that you're working on promoting right now. And I generally think book trailers are a waste of time and energy for authors. The thing I will say is that at least you took your book trailer and you did something that was interesting, made me want to watch it again, like made it something that sinks in, because it wasn't boring, and it was an engaging piece of content in and of itself, and I think it built up the character, or built up the persona, the elevated more, because maybe it's like you've taken like the broth and you've like boiled it down, so now you've got a nice gravy of who you are, I guess.
Right. I mean, like when I'm like thinking about like advertising myself, right? I can't be deadpan or something like that, or not deadpan. I want to avoid cringy, right? But like, how do you do cringy with my pure own humor? And I feel like the best way to do is go into character that's just a little bit more hyper, you but extra, right? This character that I kind of went through, though, it's kind of like the guilt of what you feel like, shilling yourself, right? Like, I feel like when I shill myself, it feels pretentious. I'm sure many people do that. So I'm like, okay, let me go as pretentious as possible. So it's like, In the commercial, I'm wearing a turtleneck, a beret. I literally Googled what's the most pretentious outfit you could wear, and that's how I came up with it. Yeah.
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, and no, and it absolutely comes across as like, oh my god, this guy's trying to be the most douchey. Like, it's the 1950s coffee house look.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like the music, I Googled and I'm like, or I went through a bunch of different songs. And I'm talking to my wife and I'm like, I just need a song that makes it look like I smell my own farts.
Well, it's funny talking to you about this because, like, so I come from music, and I'm an introvert, so being on stage in front of people is not naturally a comfortable place, and so part of getting around that is designing a personality that can kind of take the slings and arrows. And so it's like you're going out here being, artfully pretentious. For me, my thing was like I was always trying to be like the pushy asshole, but in like a sort of lovable way. Like, and I've literally had I literally had a conversation where like some girl asked for like, we'll just say it was one of the most normie songs you could ever ask for. Like I'm up on stage playing, whatever, and she's just asking for Fleetwood Mac all night, and I was like, looking at her like, ma'am, do you have a pumpkin spice latte hidden somewhere? Like, where are your UGG boots? Like, come on. Just, purposely being antagonistic with the crowd. Developing that, and it's not that that's not me. I'm very acerbic. Like, that is the kind of person I am. But like, I wouldn't usually go out in public and just start harassing people. But like, when you get this place. It's like, it's maybe the sarcasm that lets that character kind of take away from you. It's like, no, that's that guy. He does this bullshit. I'm just over here, you know, working like the little puppet master position, kind of.
Yeah, and like, my own comedy with conversation with people, like I'll do that. Like, yeah, I'm like the best thing ever, but it's like people know I'm kidding. So I turned up that character like a little bit more.
Why don't you tell us, I guess, a little bit about specifically the book that you're hawking right now? Because
Tale of the Dunce Whisperer.
this is very different, it feels like, than what you've done in the past.
Yeah, so in the past, this was sci-fi, grimdark. Now we got comedy, fantasy, and for people who need to see, this is what I look like in this trailer. And so I was like, yeah, I'm going to post myself as big as possible on the back of the book, and also it's again. I mean, I could have put this all over the book,